Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm John Ralston. What should state legislators do about that budget deficit? No matter how you calculate it, there is a budget deficit. Should they cut more? Should they tax more? We're talking to a couple of activists who have strong opinions on that today on the program. 2003, they passed a lot of different taxes, some of which worked, some of which didn't. And times have changed a lot. In fact, Guy Hobbs, who was the chairman of the last tax task force, talked about how it's changed on this program.
The economy has fundamentally changed. The tax system has not fundamentally changed. If you go back to 2003 and what has been referred to as the largest tax increase in our history, one of the taxes that they put into place yields virtually no dollars today. So it's an that would be the real property transfer tax.
Now, I remember how that was thrown in there at the end of 2003, and so do you. And this is what brings about the cynicism of people like Andy Mathews and groups such as NPRI, because they broadened the tax base by putting that in. But what was the purpose of doing it except to hit a number that they wanted to spend? That's the opposite of how it should work.
In theory, it's the opposite of how it should work, but in a compressed 120-day session, when you have interest groups begging for money for 100 of at least of those days as you're crafting the budget, you get to a point where you have a budget and you go, what do we do? And what this legislature primarily does is fill in the hole. I mean, that's every tax plan we saw in 2003 started with a number, and then you'd look down and see each tax and how they expected to get to hit the number.
But even the way they arrive at the number, to me, and then they do these artificial deadlines. I mean, you talk about the Democrats,
right,
who you're in sympathy with, who want to raise taxes, obviously. They think essential services are being cut. They came before reporters, before the session, said, here's our deadlines. We're going to have a tax plan for you by these dates. They've blown through those deadlines. They claim they're going through the budget, piece by piece in a way that's never been done before, which is not true, by the way. That's how Ways and Means and the Senate Finance Committee always work. And now they want the credibility to raise taxes. I mean, I hate to take his case, hate to be Andy Mathews too much on this program because he is here too. But I mean, you have to understand why people like that are skeptical of whatever they come up with, right?
Well, I mean, I understand. I live with someone who's very skeptical about what's going on, a libertarian in my own house. So I understand the argument. That the reality is, under a 120-day session, any deadline is meaningless. And a self-imposed one shouldn't have been imposed to begin with. I don't advise them on these things, but no, they blew it. They look as though they're not governing. They are not leading. We certainly don't have any governance at all to speak of from Carson City right now, and people should be skeptical yes. of the way the whole thing pans out.
Let me ask you, Mr. Mathews, because I am interested in this. Guys like you always talk about the wasteful government spending, and it's clear there's waste in any organization, maybe more so in government. I wanted you to give me a couple of examples. You've mentioned that one of your analysts is looking at spending in the governor's budget and can find stuff to cut. I don't mean like $20,000 things. And I know that can be symbolic even of wasteful. But give us some significant expenditures that you see in that budget that could be cut.
Well, I'd be happy to, like you said, to come back at some point down the road once this report is out. And
give us some examples. I know you're just trying to get some more NPRI FaceTime here, but seriously,
my job after all.
I understand. But give us some examples.
Well, a lot of it has to do with, like I said, the new spending that came about after the 2003 tax hikes. Expansion of full-day kindergarten programs will be one area where we can look. It may seem like a modest amount initially, but a lot of these things
that gets right to the point, and I'm glad you brought that up. There are some people who think that all-day kindergarten's a waste of money. There are others, and I have to be honest with you, I'm among them, because I sent my daughter into private school because of I didn't want to send her after going to preschool to 2 hours of kindergarten. It's a real issue. Some parents want to have that option. You are philosophically opposed to all-day kindergarten, so you think it's a waste of money, correct?
Well, let me the research, and ultimately you have to come down to what are the results of this. In some cases, parents may want to be able to send their kids somewhere for a longer period of time. And I think that's a little bit beside the point. We need to look at if we're going to spend public money on this, does it work? And what the bulk of the research shows on all-day kindergarten is that in the years immediately after, the kindergarten year, the students who are in those programs do see an increase in performance, but those
and then
increases.
They get into a classroom of 36 to 40, and it all falls apart. Let's be honest about what happens to the kids in Nevada.
The increases, where I was getting to, is the increases disappear when you get to third grade, fourth grade, and,
Why?
and down the road.
She's bringing up a possible reason why. You do have class size reduction, even though it's flawed in the way it's been implemented here in the state of Nevada. But see, this, I would like to see this kind of philosophical debate go on there, as opposed to just cherry picking research on both sides, which is what's done.
Well,
that is what's done.
The problem is our government-run public education monopoly is broken. We are so far behind the curve here in Nevada in terms of educational choice, in terms of innovative approaches like merit pay, charter schools, ending this process of social promotion. We need to catch
just stop
up.
for a second. We're going to take a break, but he's right about this. This is the part that is almost inarguable, that the whole issue of accountability, the teachers' union ability to block real reforms, that's a real problem.
That's a real problem.
Until you do that, you're going to have trouble getting people of the same philosophical bent who are elected officials to say, okay, more money.
Absolutely. No, he's right on that. I don't disagree. That
all right, we're going to leave this segment there on a point of
accountability.
agreement. We can't let that continue. Back for our last segment to talk about what might happen by June 1st when Face to Face returns.